Hey, mamas, welcome to another episode of the Motherhood Unfiltered Podcast, where we have honest conversations about motherhood, mental health, and self care. And I just want to welcome you to episode 8, which is going to be titled Setting Boundaries with Love and Navigating the Mother Daughter Relationship. My name is Kim Rich. I probably should have said that at the beginning, but at this point, you should know me, right? Okay. So, my name is Kim Rich. And again, I welcome you to the Motherhood Unfiltered Podcast. This topic today is, I felt like it was relevant because we just had Mother's Day here this past week. And Mother's Day is a time where we are supposed to celebrate our moms, but also be celebrated ourselves as moms, as aunties, as godmoms, whatever motherly title that you hold, that your family calls you by. And so I felt like Mother's Day is one of those times where sometimes the lines, the boundaries are crossed with our moms. Them potentially infringing on us being moms, as well as wanting to be celebrated for the mom that they were to you. So I just thought that it just for some reason it just seemed relevant right now, and so yeah, let's get into it. If you see me looking left and right, it's because I told y'all I'm a mama and I gotta write notes because I forget stuff. And I'll be having some important things that I want to say, or some things that I feel like are relevant, or, some of those things that give you those aha moments. And then, honey, if I don't write them down, y'all ain't getting them. That's it. That's all. My husband can tell you, we could be in the middle of the conversation and he will start talking, and I will like go to interject to say something. And then I'll be like, no, 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 go ahead, go ahead. And then he will be like, no, go ahead and say what you're going to say. And that fast, I will forget what I'm going to say. And it was probably prolific. I was probably in my Jay-Z area, but I forget that fast. It's bad. It's really bad. I need to work on that. In 2023, I need to work on getting some ginseng, some ginkgo biloba, something so that I can get my memory back, because my children took it. I'm going to blame them. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that my children. Anyways, let us get into setting boundaries with love and this mother-daughter relationship. The first thing that I feel like is important is that, like, let's be clear. It's natural to want the support and the guidance of our own moms, especially when you enter motherhood for yourself. You want to be able to lean on the experiences that you had with your mother. You want your mother to be able to provide you with knowledge, with wisdom from her own experiences as a mom. But at the same time, you want to be able to blaze your own trail for your motherhood journey with your children. And what you want to do with your kids and how you want to mother them, be their mamas, could be very much like what your mom did, what your parents did. It could be very different. It could be a blend of what you liked, what you didn't like. But the bottom line is that it is your journey to go on with your children. Don't let anyone tell you differently. Don't let anyone take away from that. You are not a bad mom just because you didn't do it like your mom did. You are, there's no manual, there's no book, there's no guidelines, there's no 10 commandments to being a mom. You have to figure this out for yourself. You know what you experienced in your childhood that you liked, and some things that maybe you didn't like. And if you had it to do differently, you want to do it differently, and that's okay. I say all of this to say that sometimes we want to have our moms there to guide us and to hold our hands. But at the same time, we have to create healthy boundaries for ourselves and for our mothers. And I'm talking specifically about mothers today, but the reality of the situation is that you want to create boundaries with your family members, regardless of if it's your mom or not. It could be your dad. You could have been raised by an aunt. You could have been raised by an uncle. You could have been raised by grandparents. Um, However, the hierarchy in your family falls, and whoever it is that was responsible for raising you, they do feel the need to drop in that little piece of advice or say that, well, maybe if you do it this way, or maybe you should consider doing it that way. And sometimes you need it. You want it. Sometimes you don't even know that you needed it, but they give it to you at the moment where you needed it, and it's helpful. But then there are other times where those guidelines and those tidbits of information that maybe you didn't want or you didn't need, you have to say respectfully, I appreciate, where it is you're coming from. I appreciate what you've done for me as a parent, as a mom, as a grandmom, as an aunt. However, I'm going to have to respectfully decline that information that you're giving me, and I'm going to have to try to do something differently. The other thing is that there's no one stop shop for how you mother or parent your children. And so, what your mother, your father, your parents did for you, or what worked for you as a child, might not necessarily work for your child. And so, um, it's just important that we establish our own identities as parents and not just be a copy and paste, because maybe the copy and paste isn't perfect for your child. Um, but the first thing I think that is important is that when we are trying to create these boundaries with our parents, with our moms, we need to be able to be in a position to have honest and open conversation. Now, sometimes for our moms, it's hard to hear, especially because our moms are from a different generation. Um, I can only tell you from my experience, I'm African American, as you can see, and African American households are a little bit different, and were a little bit different when it came to how children were reared. Some kids were raised in a household where they were around other adults and they were expected to be seen and not heard, meaning you see things, you hear things, but it's not your place to comment on them because you're supposed to stay in a child's place. And if you're not watching me on YouTube, again, what are you waiting for? I told you I'm much funnier on YouTube because you can see me, you can see all my hand gestures, but staying in a child's place, and I'm using my air quotes, right? And so that might not work today for your child. And I'm not saying that your child should be in all of your adult conversations, but at the same time, I feel like our generation, millennials, and I'm considered an elder millennial at this point, which I feel like is rude. That's low key rude, but I'm a millennial. And so our generation, we're a little bit different with how it is that we raise our children. We allow our children to be more included in the conversation. And sometimes with our moms, they're like, child need to stay in a child place. I hear you, and that probably worked for your generation. However, I'm raising my children a little bit differently. I'm raising them to have opinions. I'm raising them to be in a situation where they feel comfortable voicing their opinions. Because while I want them to be well-rounded individuals, as far as being able to work, go to school, have curriculars, build relationships, have friends, it's also important as a well-rounded individual to pay attention to their mental and emotional needs. And so I don't agree with the whole a child should stay in a child's place and should not have opinions and X, Y, and Z. All right. So the first tip that I said, because I did a lot of rambling there, is making sure that you're having honest and open communication with your mom. Let her know you appreciate her, you love her, but also express the need for space to make your own decisions as a mom. Clearly communicate your boundaries, explaining what you're comfortable with and what you're not. And remember, these conversations should come from a place of love and respect, but also understand that there are going to be times that these conversations are going to be hard. They're going to be hard for you. They're going to be hard for your mom. And if something happens where the conversation is getting difficult, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to say, you know what, at this point, at this juncture, I think that it's best for us to take a break. And we can revisit this at a later time. And sometimes taking a break means I just got to get off the phone with you right now, mom. I'll call you tomorrow. Or sometimes taking a break is I need a few days. I need to let this marinate. I need to, you know, take a few moments to woosah. I need to meditate. I need to get my mind right. And sometimes I need that extra time because it allows me to reprocess the conversation, the communication that we've had, and then it allows me to maybe see some of the things from my mother's perspective. Or maybe not. Maybe I just need to take the break because I am still my mother's child, but and I'm trying to be respectful, and I can feel myself getting to the point where I could get a little disrespectful because I am 8 years old. I am an adult. I do have my own household that I'm trying to run, and sometimes look, I'm a little feisty. I'm not even going to fake and try to tell y'all that I'm an angel because I'm not. Anyone who knows me outside of this podcast universe, you know that I'm spicy. I'm going to give you my opinion. It's going to be raw, rough, and uncut. It's going to be straight talk and no chaser. And sometimes that doesn't go over well in my communication with people, namely my mother. My mother and I are a lot alike, and we're going to give you the straight talk and no chaser. But it's hard to give someone a straight talk and no chaser when y'all giving it to each other, right? That's when you getting into a little razzle dazzle and things get a little messy and a little heated. So having honest and open communication with your mom is important. Setting boundaries, expressing the need for space, all these things are important when you are creating a healthy relationship with your mother, where you have boundaries. Now, what happens when your mom doesn't respect the boundaries? That can be hard. It can be challenging because you 9 times out of 10 you feel like you're being unheard, or you feel like you're being treated like you're a child, and you're like, I know that I'm your child, but I'm not a child. I know that I was born, but I wasn't born yesterday. And I'm an adult now, and I have my own children. I have my own opinions and my own perspectives on things. And so sometimes when your mom taps her toe on your boundary line, it doesn't feel good. It hurts. It makes you frustrated. It confuses you because it's like, mom, we already had this talk. We had this communication. I thought that this is what we're doing. I thought we were moving in the right direction. And when someone steps on the boundary, it's like reopening a wound that you have been trying your best to heal from. And so what happens when someone steps on the boundary? We don't blow up. Okay, that's number one. We do not blow up. Don't allow someone to take you to crazy town with them. What we do is we, with love, with patience, and with kindness, compassion, all the things that I'm still working on. Because I told you, it's raw, rough, and uncut over here. Okay, you poke the bear, I'm gonna roar. Like that's just how it generally works. I'm a work in progress. We all are. But generally, if someone is stepping on your boundaries, the best thing for you to do is to calmly explain why your boundary is important to you, why this situation, this scenario is not playing out in a way that makes you feel comfortable, that makes you feel heard, and and reiterate your boundaries. Reiterate your boundaries. Be consistent in trying to enforce them. And I know that it's hard to be consistent in enforcing something with someone who was your parent, with someone who raised you, but it is important for your own mental well-being and for you to be a healthy, happy, and productive mom to create boundaries, and for your family, your parents, your aunt, your grandmother, whoever it is that is giving you this mom advice, to respect that. So the first thing we want to do, again, honest and open communication, expressing your need to make your own decisions. When somebody steps on this boundary, calmly reinforcing, reminding them, hey, I have this boundary, this is why. And that's that. Healthy boundaries can sometimes, the other thing that healthy boundaries can sometimes require is flexibility. Now, sometimes you'll have a boundary and I don't know, say it's a basic thing. Say it's like, hey, we don't give the kids a cookie after every meal. Now, this one is funny because And my family, we have family members who, whenever they have their grands, their kids, the kids, every meal they get a dessert. Now, I don't believe that you need to have a dessert with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dinner, okay, maybe lunch, but we don't need to have a dessert with every meal. Now, that doesn't, it's not a big deal, right? But it is a boundary. It is a boundary that I've set up that I believe we don't need to have something sweet every time after we eat. Because unless we are brushing our teeth after every time we eat, we can have cavities, right? We can put on a little bit of extra weight that we don't need. And everybody says, oh, they're babies, they're kids. You know, they need fats, they need this, that, and the other. That's how their brain grows. And then let me explain something to you. My children are the top 98% of all of their subjects for all of where we live. They don't need no more fat for their brain. They good. They smart. They smart. That's not a reason for you to give them a sweet after every meal. I'm sorry. Like, no, that's not. So, um, but I try to be flexible, right? Because this is the grandparents. They love their babies. They so excited. We don't live in the same state as them. So they're gonna spoil them. They're gonna spoil them. And me and my husband are gonna have to break these habits when we come back home. Now sometimes I will say, all right, you guys had, grandma, granddaddy, pop, all the of us. I told you, remember I told you, they got grandmas, they got mamas, they got grantees, they got pops, they got granddaddy, they got great granddaddy, they got a lot of grands. Okay, so sometimes I have to remind these grands, look, I know you love them. I know you excited that they're here. I'm excited that they're here. Why? Because I can take a break from being a mother. And I appreciate what it is that you offer. I appreciate the care that you give to my children, the preparation that you make before we even get here with them. I appreciate all those things. However, they cannot have a sweet after every meal and then have snacks throughout the day. But I am flexible. The first 2, 3 days, I let them have the extra sweet after every meal. Now, when we get closer to the end of the trip, I start saying, all right, yep. Remember yesterday when you had that pound cake after lunch and dinner? We're not doing that today. Thank you. Love you. Mean it. And I do. Wholeheartedly, I do. However, I try to be a little flexible with the boundaries, but when it's time for us to start getting ready to go back home, I got to push my boundaries back in because I'm trying to get these children back in line so that when we get back home, don't ask me at 9 a.m. after you've eaten breakfast if you can have ice cream because the answer is going to be no. I'm sorry that grandma did that. I know that grandpa did that. I'm sorry that grands did that. And I'm so grateful that you had the experience and the time to spend with them and that they spoil you. However, that's grandparents' house. This is not a listen Linda situation here. Okay? No one is going to listen Linda to me. You guys. Okay, what? Everything they do at this house, you can't trust everything at grandma's house. Lynn, I'm the kid in this situation, and Linda are my children, and they're gonna listen to me, and I'm gonna tell them, listen. In mommy and daddy's house, we don't have sweets after breakfast and lunch. We just don't. You can have the dessert at the end of the day, and if you don't like it, and if you want to act out about it, you cannot have a dessert at all. And I'm okay with that because I can save my money on ice cream and I can get something else. Okay, so flexibility. All right, is important to have with your boundaries because some of the boundaries you try to set up to spare your children, and some of them are okay to be bent, but not broken. Okay, there's a difference between bending a boundary and allowing it to be broken and allowing someone to really push you beyond where it is that you're comfortable. Right. All right. So we talked about the open and honest communication. We talked about being firm when your boundaries are crossed. We talked about communicating that you're trying to create this motherhood journey for yourself, respecting the fact that your parent has done this and you appreciate the love and the guidance and the support. However, some things you're just going to have to figure out on your own. And lastly, when it comes to your boundaries, the most important thing that you should do as a mom is to take care of yourself and your family. As a mom, you're going to have multiple responsibilities. You're going to be pulled in 90 directions. You're going to be pulled and juggling and spinning plates all at the same time. And it's okay to take time to prioritize your needs. Again, this is the Motherhood Unfiltered podcast. We're going to talk about motherhood, mental health, and self care. And creating boundaries is also a way for you to create self care for yourself. Okay, so it's okay to prioritize your own needs. Don't feel guilty for setting aside time for yourself to take care of yourself, for making choices that align with your family's well being. All of that is important because remember, creating boundaries is an act of self love, and it's an act of self empowerment. Because if you can't love yourself, how are you going to be expecting anybody else to love you? And how can you love anybody else, right? So, with that being said, I hope that these tips and tricks help you be able to navigate creating a healthy relationship with your mom, where you and her both can have boundaries. And always remember, you are not alone on this journey, and it's important to find what works best for you and your family. Um, so, with that, let's go ahead and close this one out. Thank you again for tuning into the Motherhood Unfiltered podcast, where we have honest conversations about motherhood, mental health, and self care. Don't forget, if you are not subscribed to my podcast, wherever it is that you prefer to listen or watch them, make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you share these with your other mama friends, your aunties, the grandmamas. I want everyone here. Let's build a community together. And until next time, just embrace this beautiful chaos that we call motherhood and keep mothering. Okay. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. Peace, love, and light. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.